EVP. Got the guns out. Obviously no identification. We got fucking tear gas and shit.
Just a couple of real obvious douches smirking and being as smarmy as possible about their blatant disregard for human lives. Just days ago, multiple federal and local law enforcement agencies, including the National Guard, descended on LA's MacArthur Park. This is my city. I was born and raised here. I still live here. And in this carefully planned show of force, this photo op essentially intended to send a dystopian message to the local community here, to my fellow Angelinos, that they're here and by extension Donald Trump is in control of our lives in very intense, scary, and unnecessary ways. Thankfully, the community showed up and pushed back in whatever little way they could.
Get the out of here, piggy! Get the out! Nazis! Nazis!
And while it's tough to be screaming in the faces of people that are just doing their job, when it's the people misusing their role to make these people do things that are very morally messed up and not necessary in the least, this is also, again, one of the only things we can do, protecting the rights of marginalized groups being targeted by a Trump administration. When we don't have the power to do anything to actually stop it, all we can do is protest and make our discontent known. Any attack on the civil rights of marginalized people in this country is an attack on the civil rights of the privileged people in this country. Nothing should make that clearer than bigoted ghoul Stephen Miller having as much power and influence over our lives as he does right now and laughing his way through it.
ICE officers are heroes and they need the support of the American people.
They aren't morals if you only care about them when it affects you directly. That's just self-preservation. Morals are what you stand for when no one's looking. Morals are what you stand for when it affects other people. And the Trump administration just peddles complete lies every second. Complete lies about what Democrats are trying to do when none of it is true. It's completely made up propaganda so that they can enforce their own white nationalist, essentially, agenda. Look at what he said in the same interview.
Countries like Somalia, countries like Haiti, countries that have no history of successful self-government, and they want unlimited numbers of illegals from those countries and refugees from those countries to come here with no chance at the pace, the scale, the scope of arrivals at being able to assimilate and integrate into the American way of life. What has it done to our schools? What has it done to our hospitals? What has it done to just traffic in our cities? Every issue that affects our quality of life, Jesse, public safety, drugs, crime, education, healthcare, waiting in the emergency room, are all exacerbated, worsened, and undermined by mass illegal immigration. ICE officers are heroes and they need the support of the American people. President Trump is liberating our towns just as he was promised.
Just take a moment to pause and think about what he just said. He's blaming immigrants, specifically, of course, brown and black immigrants, for societal issues that can be directly tied back to failures of our government to adequately serve our own people due to the pervasive, corrupting nature of unlimited dark money in our political system. That's the real problem. And the people who stand to profit off of human suffering, whether someone's a citizen or not, they're still a human being. And the real problem is the greediest among us rigging the system to their own benefit and then blaming people who are not to blame for it in any way. Yes, we need protected borders. Protect them strongly. We should do that. But when people come here seeking better lives and are law-abiding citizens, you do not treat them like garbage. You do not take away their humanity. You do not put them in detention centers. You, in humane, calm, reasonable ways, enforce the law. You don't do shows of force that sweep up in their broad strokes people who've been here their whole lives, people whose families are here, people whose children are sick, people who are doing the jobs we don't want to do, even sweeping up American citizens in it because of their skin color and profiling them in that way. That's not what America's about. Is it? If it is, let me know, because it's not the country I grew up loving. If you want to fix the problems in our country, how about invest more in overhauling our education system so that we can actually grow up to compete with other nations that are kicking our ass in all of these categories? How about having a public option for healthcare so that everybody can truly be insured in this country without going bankrupt and not being forced to have their insurance tied to their employers or not being able to afford insurance? We could do so much to improve materially the conditions of everybody in this country in so many ways other than indiscriminately targeting minorities through dragnet operations and building more prisons and detention centers and mass deporting human beings who are contributing to our society. And just in case that first couple parts of Miller's rant didn't convince you he's a rabid white supremacist who takes joy in inflicting pain on anybody he perceives to be his enemy, promoting the bogus white replacement conspiracy theory that the Republicans love to use to justify their unfeeling, cold, and cruel policy positions.
The Democrat Party's objective is to flood the West with millions upon millions of illegals from the developing world, from the poor nations of the world, the failed states of the world, the collapsing states of the world, believing that in so doing, they will collapse the West. They will collapse the middle class. They will collapse the population that has lived here before the migrants came. And in so doing, they think in the rubble of that, they can rule. They can sit on top the pile of ashes.
Miller, just like Jesse Waters and all the decision makers at Fox News, know that their audiences respond to fear. So they can make up total lies, scare older people. And when you mix that with other forms of bigotry, you have a dangerous cocktail being served to millions upon millions of people across the country. And look what it results in. Us losing our common humanity. And all this has been done with the current budget levels.
This bill provides a whopping $170 billion to transform immigration enforcement and detention. This includes $45 billion for new detention jails. That's 265% more than the current ICE detention budget and more than the budget of the federal prison system. ICE's enforcement budget would increase by $30 billion, a threefold increase, and there's some $46 billion for border walls and more.
You will see ICE now being the single largest federal law enforcement agency in the history of the nation, potentially with enough funding to hire more law enforcement agents than the FBI and more detention potentially than the entire Federal Bureau of Prisons. The people held in detention often have no criminal record, or they have minor, lower misdemeanors, or if they do have a serious criminal record, they've usually served their time, and if they were U.S. citizens, would have already been released.
And now with the big, beautiful bill, which is definitely big and definitely not beautiful, ICE is the biggest agency in the country, funded far more than so many of the organizations and departments of our government that desperately need funding that actually help people instead of hurt people. And all it does really is call our civil rights into question, call who we are into question, call our standing in the world into question, and crumble further away whatever crumbs we have of our democracy left. Because what makes this nation amazing is that it's a government of, by, and for the people. And when it instead scares the people, punishes the people, does what it can to make the people feel powerless and that they are at the whims of an authoritarian government that will jail them or scoop them up whenever they get out of hand, well, that's not America really at all. Sorry this video wasn't funny or wasn't much in the mood. I'm Ben Gleib for Rebel HQ. You can follow me at Ben Gleib on Instagram for lots more, including funnier stuff a lot of the time, being that I am a comedian and being that this video clearly did not show that in any way.